Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
Okay, so before we jump in, let's start today with a little mental exercise.
I like it.
I want you to picture a house. It doesn't have to be your house, just, any structure. Maybe it's one of those beautiful old Victorians, wraparound porch, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's, I don't know, a super slick modern glass box. The point is, from the outside, the curb appeal is amazing.
Totally pristine.
Exactly. The paint is fresh, lawns manicured, windows are gleaming. But then if you were to go inside, down the hall, open that creaky basement door and shine a flashlight on the foundation, you'd see a crack. Just a tiny one. A hairline fracture.
And the human instinct is just to ignore it, right? Because it's small, it's in the basement, and whoever goes down there anyway.
Who goes down there? You pretend it doesn't exist, you ignore it for years, you live your life upstairs, you have dinner parties, you watch movies, you do everything you're supposed to do in a house. But that crack, it's widening, millimeter by millimeter, under the sheer unspoken weight of the house itself.
Oh, that's a heavy image.
And it is, until one day you're just sitting there in the living room having your morning coffee and the floor it dips. The wall shears. The whole structure gives way. And it wasn't a bomb. It wasn't a wrecking ball.
Uh-huh.
It was just gravity and time acting on a tiny flaw that was there silent from the very beginning.
Wow. That is a terrifying image to start a morning with, but it is an incredibly, incredibly accurate metaphor for what we're talking about today.
It really feels like the only way to explain this phenomenon we're tackling. We are looking at a whole stack of research and articles today, and they all kind of center on this one specific, very confusing and often pretty painful reality, the quiet fade of adult friendship.
Quiet fade. It's such a perfect term for it. It's a completely universal experience, isn't it?
It has to be. And the core source material we're really diving into today, it uses this exact metaphor. It's an article titled The Silent Architecture of Adult Friendship, and it draws a lot from the whole unspoken rules discourse in social psychology. The premise is, well, it's fascinating and honestly a little bit haunting.
Which is?
That friendships don't usually die because of some big explosion. They collapse because of, structural failure.
Which is so interesting because that goes against our entire cultural narrative.
Yeah.
And I think our personal expectation
Yeah.
of what a breakup is supposed to feel like or look like.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to pull up the floorboards. Yeah. We are not here today to tell you, how to make new friends at a pottery class.
No. 5 easy steps.
None of that. We're not here to give you a script for a friendship divorce. We are here to act as, structural engineers. We want to understand the invisible rules, the silent architecture that dictates why some bonds hold for 50 years and why others, with people you thought would be at your funeral, just
drift.
They just drift away into the ether.
And I think it's important we establish the stakes here right at the top. Because when this happens, when a friend just drifts, it produces a really specific kind of confusion. It's not usually outright anger.
No, it's quieter.
It's a low-level humming anxiety. So that feeling of scrolling through your phone, you see a name, and you just feel that little pang in your chest.
Oh, it's the what did I do spiral. 100%.
Precisely. So if you're listening to this and you're already thinking of a name, someone who hasn't texted you in 6 months, someone who used to be your person, then this deep dive is definitely for you.
And we should probably do a quick tone check right here. This is not an indictment of your social skills.
Absolutely not.
Please, just put down the guilt right now. This isn't about you being a bad person or a bad friend. This is about mechanics. It's about systems.
Right. And the source material argues, very convincingly, I think, that we are all operating inside a system that is largely invisible to us. Mm-hmm. We're playing a game where nobody actually wrote down the rules, so we're all just kind of guessing.
And when we get wrong?
People get hurt. Structures collapse.
So let's start by shattering the first big illusion, the myth of the Big Bang.
The cinematic breakup scene?
Yes. We are trained by television, by movies, by novels, by everything to expect a climax. If a relationship ends, there must be an inciting incident. In a romantic relationship, it's cheating, or it's the big, I don't love you anymore speech.
Right.
In a friendship movie, it's that scene where they're screaming at each other in the pouring rain, you never supported my art, or, whatever it is.
Right. We crave that scene, don't we? It's dramatic structure 101. It gives us a beginning, a middle, and a definitive end.
But why do we crave it so much in our actual lives? Why do we almost want there to have been a fight?
Because it offers clarity. It's simple.
Yeah.
If you steal my money, or if you sleep with my partner, or if you tell my deepest secret to a room full of people, I have a clear cause and effect narrative.
Yes.
I can point to that specific event and say, that is why we are not friends anymore. It validates the loss. It justifies the grief. It gives me a story to tell other people when they ask what happened.
It makes you the victim and them the villain. It's clean. It's a closed loop.
It's so clean. But the source makes this very bold assertion right at the top, which is that in the vast, vast majority of adult friendships, that inciting incident never actually happens.
Which leaves us in this fog. I remember I had a friend a few years ago. We were completely inseparable. And then it just became...
Less.
And then less. And I kept scanning my memory, like replaying the tapes of our last 3 brunches.
Oh, the mental audit.
The total audit. Did I chew too loudly? Did I make a joke that didn't land? Did I not like their Instagram post fast enough? I was acting like a detective at a crime scene where no crime had ever been committed.
You were desperately searching for the crime to explain the punishment you felt you were receiving.
Exactly. I needed a reason. But the source basically says looking for that event is a complete waste of time.
Because the decay isn't happening in the events. It's happening in the absence of events. The source uses this one phrase that I've circled like 3 times in my notes here. It says, friendships fade under the weight of unspoken expectations.
Unspoken expectations. Wow. That feels like the key to the entire mystery right there.
It is. I really think it is. And this brings us right to the central concept of the article, which is the silent architecture.
Okay, let's unpack this metaphor.
Yeah.
Because architecture sounds so rigid. It sounds like steel beams and blueprints and, math. Friendship is supposed to be fluid, organic, almost magical. We like to think it just happens.
And that belief right there, that friendship should just be magical and easy, is actually a huge part of the problem. That's the myth. The source argues that every single relationship, no matter how organic it feels on the surface, has a structure.
Okay.
It has load-bearing walls. It has a foundation. It has, like any house, maintenance requirements.
Mm-hmm.
The problem in adult friendship is that we never sit down and agree on the blueprints.
So I might be, in my head, building a cozy little bungalow where we hang out on the porch every single day, and you think you're building this massive skyscraper where we meet in the lobby once a quarter for a formal check-in.
Exactly. Or, to put it in terms of the relationship itself, I might assume the blueprint of our friendship includes talking on the phone 3 times a week. Because to me, that's what closeness feels like. It's how I was raised.
Right.
But you might assume the blueprint is just texting memes once a month and seeing each other at Christmas. And for you, that creates the exact same feeling of closeness.
In that scenario, neither of us is wrong.
In a vacuum, no, not at all. Those are both perfectly valid ways to interact with another human. But structurally, architecturally, if I'm trying to put a skyscraper roof on your bungalow walls, the whole house falls down.
Wow.
The friction, the instability, it comes from the mismatch of the design.
And because the architecture is silent, we don't talk about it. We just get angry that the other person isn't following the rules that exist only in our head.
We assume our rules are universal laws of physics. A good friend would obviously do X.
When in reality, X is just your preference or your upbringing or maybe even your trauma response.
Totally. It's your personal blueprint. And the source material breaks this whole silent architecture down into 3 main pillars. These are the big load-bearing walls. If these are strong and, importantly, aligned, the friendship can probably survive the drift. But if they're weak or mismatched, the roof caves in.
Okay, let's go through them. Pillar number 1, this one. I have a feeling this one is going to hit home for a lot of people. This is the one I hear people complain about the most over drinks.
I think so too. Pillar number 1 is the initiator, or, put another way, the logistics of contact.
Ah, the who texts who game.
It sounds so petty when you say it out loud like that, doesn't it? Oh, I'm counting who texted first.
Yeah.
It feels juvenile, like something you do in middle school. But the source argues this is actually about something much deeper. It's about power and value and care.
It's the classic dynamic of the planner versus the participant.
Right. In so many friendships, these roles just naturally calcify over time. One person becomes the de facto social chair.
I know that role well.
They find the restaurant, they pick the date, they send the calendar invite, they check the reviews, they send the follow-up confirming text. The other person is the attendee. They say yes, they show up, and they are, fantastic company.
And for a long time, this system works. I've been the planner. And honestly, a part of me likes planning. I like knowing where we're going. I like control, frankly. And I have friends who are beautifully chaotic and just terrible at details. So for years, it feels symbiotic.
Right.
I row the boat, they enjoy the ride, we both get to the island, everybody seems happy.
It works perfectly until the water gets rough, or more often until the rower just gets tired. The source points out that over a timeline of years, the emotional weight of being the only initiator starts to curdle. It slowly transforms from I'm the organized one to I'm the only one who cares.
Oh, that is the terrifying moment. It's when you put your phone down and you think, with this cold dread, if I don't text them, I will literally never hear from them again.
That is the crucial speculation, as the source puts it. Does this friendship exist independently of my constant effort? Or am I, in effect, simulating a relationship by doing 100% of the maintenance?
And that is such a heavy realization. Because if the answer is no, this friendship doesn't exist without me, then you feel like a fool. You feel like you've been forcing yourself on someone who is just politely tolerating your existence.
You feel like a beggar.
You do. But okay, here's where the silent part of the architecture is so important. We have to be compassionate structural engineers here. Let's play devil's advocate for the participant for a second. The friend who never texts first. What is their internal blueprint? What's going on in their head?
Well, their internal blueprint might be, my friend loves planning. They're so good at it. I don't want to get in their way. Every time I suggest a place, they change it anyway because they find somewhere better.
Okay, that's possible. Or even, I'm so disorganized, I'll just mess it up, so I should just let them lead. It's better for both of us.
Or, and I think this is the deepest one, their rule might be, we are such close friends that we don't need to stand on ceremony. I don't have to perform friendship by texting every week. Our bond is beyond logistics. We're good.
Wow. So I'm sitting over here feeling completely abandoned and devalued, and they're sitting over there feeling totally secure in our bond.
Exactly. Two completely different blueprints. You have a rule in your head that says initiation equals care. They have a rule in their head that says presence equals care.
So I'm judging them by a metric they don't even know they're being graded on?
They don't even know the test is happening.
Yeah.
And this, of course, leads to the great standoff. You decide, okay, that's it. I'm not going to text them until they text me. You're testing them.
You're running an experiment.
Yes. And it's what some psychologists call a covert contract.
A what?
A covert contract.
Yeah.
It's a term often used in relationship psychology, and the source applies it here perfectly. It's when you make a deal in your head with someone, but you never actually tell them the terms of the deal.
So it's like, if I plan the last 3 dinners, you will implicitly understand that you are supposed to plan the next one.
Precisely. But you never said that. You just silently expected it.
Yeah.
And when they inevitably break this contract they never even signed, you feel deeply betrayed.
That is painfully accurate. So the silence stretches. 1 week becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes 6 months. And then it crosses a line and just becomes awkward.
That's the threshold of no return. Once the silence itself has weight, breaking it requires a huge amount of energy. You can't just send a casual hey after a year of nothing.
No, you can't. You have to acknowledge the gap. You have to explain where you've been or ask where they've been. And because we're all so terrified of that awkwardness, we just let the drift continue.
We let it go. The initiator pillar collapses. And we let it fall because the idea of lifting it back up feels too heavy, too awkward.
Okay, so that's pillar 1. What is pillar number 2?
Pillar number 2 is the emotional load.
Okay, this feels really distinct from logistics. This isn't about booking the table. This is about what happens at the table during the conversation.
Correct. The source defines the emotional load as the labor of maintaining the bond itself, not the schedule. It involves active listening, remembering details, validating feelings, soothing anxieties. It's the care work of a friendship.
And we all know the imbalance here when we see it. It's the friend who, maybe unintentionally, treats you like they're unpaid therapists.
It's the classic vent session. You meet up for coffee, and for 55 minutes, they just download everything onto you.
Yeah.
Their boss, their mother, their bad date, their existential anxiety. And you do your part. You nod, you offer advice, you make those little soothing noises. You ask follow-up questions. You remember the name of the boss they hated 2 years ago. And then the check comes, they say, oh my God, I've just been rambling this whole time. Anyway, I got to run. This was great. Let's do this again.
And you walk away from that coffee feeling completely drained, hollowed out.
You feel like a utility. You weren't a person to them in that moment. You were a receptacle. You were just a bucket for all their stress.
But I have to push back on that a little bit. Isn't that what friends are for? I mean, if my best friend is going through a divorce or they just lost their job, I want to be that bucket. I want to carry that load with them. I'd be offended if they didn't come to me.
Absolutely. And that's a crucial distinction the source makes here. It's the difference between an acute load and a chronic load.
Okay.
An acute load is a crisis. Your friend is in trouble. You step up. The architecture of a strong friendship is designed to flex for that. That's what the load-bearing walls are for, to handle the storms. The problem is when that imbalance becomes the permanent state of the architecture.
When the crisis mode never ends, or when the dynamic is just fundamentally, I am the listener and you are the speaker. That's just our thing.
Yes. There's a term in the literature for this, the narcissistic supply. Now, we are not diagnosing anyone's friends as clinical narcissists. But in that specific dynamic, one person is the main character and the other is the supporting cast. And the supporting cast exists primarily to validate and move along the main character's plotline.
And that unspoken expectation here, that covert contract again, is reciprocity. I'm listening to you vent about your job for an hour because I assume that when I have a bad day, you'll do the same for me. I'm making a deposit in the emotional bank, expecting I can make a withdrawal later.
But so often that withdrawal gets denied. Because the main character friend doesn't see the blueprint that way at all. They might be thinking, wow, my friend is such a rock. They're so strong. They never have any problems.
Great.
They interpret your silence about your own life, not as I'm waiting for you to ask, but as everything must be fine.
So by being a good listener, I'm actually, in a way, training them to ignore my own needs.
You're reinforcing an architecture where you are the one who carries the weight. And then, inevitably, you come to resent the very weight you agreed to carry.
It's so tricky, though, because the act of asking for support feels weirdly pathetic. Hey, can you ask me about my day now? It just ruins the entire feeling of being cared for.
Oh, totally.
If I have to ask you to care, it feels like proof that you don't actually care.
That is the ultimate trap. The belief that if I have to ask, it doesn't count. That is such a romanticized, almost childish notion of connection. It assumes that mind reading is the ultimate proof of love. But adults aren't mind readers.
Right.
They are tired, they are distracted, and frankly, we're all a little self-centered. If you don't ring the bell, they assume the service isn't needed.
So the emotional load pillar cracks because one person is being crushed by the weight of it, and the other person doesn't even know there is a weight to begin with.
Precisely. Which brings us to the third, and perhaps the most modern, of the three pillars.
Okay, what's pillar number 3?
Pillar number 3 is availability, or, as the source calls it, the assumption of access.
This feels like the one that shifts the most as we get older. In college or even in your early 20s, availability is the default setting.
It is, yeah.
You live in the dorms or you have 3 roommates, you are just around, you walk into the kitchen to get a glass of water and your best friend is there. Proximity does all the work for you. You don't have to schedule quality time because you're brushing your teeth next to each other every night.
You don't need initiators or planners because your social life is geographically inevitable. But then comes what the article calls the great scattering.
Jobs, partners, moving to different cities, kids.
And suddenly your time, your availability, becomes a scarce resource. It's like gold dust. You have to hoard it and protect it.
It becomes the most valuable currency you possess. And the unspoken rule of friendship from our youth often clashes violently with this new reality. The old rule is, we are friends, so you should have time for me.
If you value me, you would make time.
But the reality of adult life is, I literally do not have a free hour until next Tuesday at 4 p.m. And during that specific hour, I need to do laundry, call my mom, and just stare at a wall in silence.
It's the conflict between implied availability and actual availability.
And the source dives really deep into the texting era here. Because we carry our friends around in our pockets all day, we have this illusion that they are always available. If I text you, I know you saw it. You have your phone. It's probably in your hand right now.
Right.
So if you don't reply, it's not an accident. It's a choice.
Nobody is that busy. That's the little voice in your head, right? Beyonce has the same 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
If she can record an entire album and run an empire, you can text me back lol.
Exactly.
But it's not actually about the amount of time, is it? It's about bandwidth. It's about emotional bandwidth. The source argues that when we start to interpret busyness as rejection, we initiate the drift.
Okay, explain that loop. How does one missed text turn into a dead friendship? Walk me through it.
Okay, here's the scenario. You text a friend something meaningful. They're completely overwhelmed at work, so they see the notification pop up, and they think, oh, I want to give this a real reply, not just a quick one. I love them, so I want to be thoughtful. I'll do it tonight when I have more brain space.
That's a noble intention.
A very noble intention.
Yeah.
But tonight comes, they are completely exhausted. They fall asleep on the couch watching TV. The next morning, they wake up, see the text again. Now it's been 24 hours. They feel an immediate pang of guilt.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm a bad friend. I can't just reply casually now. I have to apologize for the delay. So the task gets bigger.
And now it's been 3 days. And that little pang of guilt has mutated into a much bigger feeling of shame.
Yes. And shame is an avoidance emotion. It makes us want to hide. Now, replying feels like a direct confrontation with their own failure. It's an admission of negligence. So they put it off further. I'll do it on the weekend when I can really craft the perfect apology.
Meanwhile, on my end, the sender, I've gone from, oh, they're probably just busy, to, are they ignoring me? To, okay, they definitely hate me.
And eventually you stop texting because you're hurt and you want to protect yourself. And they are now too ashamed to reach out and break the long silence. And so the silence wins.
That's a death spiral. And it was caused entirely by the mismatch of availability expectations.
Totally. One person demands immediate access, the other person needs grace and time. But because the rules aren't spoken out loud, the architecture just collapses under the weight of the silence.
Wow. So we have these 3 failing pillars. The fatigue of the constant initiator, the crushing, unequal weight of the emotional load, and this massive misinterpretation of availability. When you stack all those up, you don't get a big explosion, you get something much colder.
You get the toxin.
The source calls this section the anatomy of resentment.
And this is such a crucial distinction to make for anyone listening. Resentment is not the same as anger. Anger is hot. Anger is, you stole my car. It's active. You can yell about it. You can process it. It burns out eventually.
Resentment is passive.
Resentment is cold. It's calcified. The source compares it to rust on a car. You don't really notice it day to day, but it is silently eating away at the metal. It's a slow, quiet accumulation of hundreds of tiny slights.
And the mechanism of this rust, this resentment, is what the source calls the scorecard.
Oh, the scorecard. The thing we all lie about. We all say, oh, I don't keep score. Friendship isn't transactional. I give freely from the heart.
I do because I love you, not because I expect anything back.
Complete rubbish. We are evolutionary biology machines at our core. We are wired for reciprocity. If I share my mammoth meat with you in the dead of winter and you don't share your berries with me in the summer, I die. My brain is hardwired to track the exchange of energy. It's a survival mechanism to identify parasites in the tribe.
So even if we consciously say we aren't keeping score, there is a little ledger book in the back of our minds.
Always. I drove to your house the last 3 times. Check. I remembered your dog's birthday and sent a card. Check. I bought the expensive baby shower gift off the registry. Check. I listened to your entire breakup story for 2 hours. Check, check, check. You were ticking these boxes. And then you look over at their side of the ledger.
And it looks empty, or at least a lot lighter than yours.
And the source notes that the real pain here comes from the inequality. It becomes a justice issue in your mind. It's not fair. That is the feeling that kills love and affection. It's the deep-seated sense that you are being taken advantage of.
But, and I guess this is the real tragedy of it, does the other person even know the scorecard exists?
Probably not. Or, and this is even more common, they are keeping a completely different scorecard with totally different metrics.
Right. They aren't cracking who drove last.
Exactly. They might be thinking, well, I didn't drive to your house, but I was the one who introduced you to your boyfriend. That's worth 100 car rides. Or, I'm the one who makes you laugh so hard you cry when you're sad. That's my contribution. You're counting a different currency.
So we have these mismatched ledgers. But because we never show our work to each other, we just sit there in our own quiet resentment.
We sit in it until it solidifies into a wall between us.
There's a line in the source that really stopped me cold. It says, mismatched expectations hurt more than honesty.
Let's just dwell on that for a second. Why? Why would the mismatch be worse than the cold, hard truth?
Well, if you come to me and you say, look, I don't want to be your friend anymore, that hurts. That hurts like a punch in the face. It breaks my nose. But I can heal a broken nose. I can say, okay, that person is gone now. I can mourn, I can cry, I can eventually move on.
The clean break?
It's a clean break. But the mismatch is purgatory. It's limbo. It's gaslighting yourself every single day. Are we friends? Are we not? Why do I feel bad when I should feel good after seeing them? It's a rejection not just of the friendship, but of your value.
Yes. That's it. It makes you feel insignificant. If I am operating under the expectation that we are tier 1 best friends, and you're secretly operating under the expectation that we are tier 3 catch up when we can friends, then every single time you treat me like a tier 3 friend, I feel devalued. I feel like I'm screaming into a void.
And you're just over there thinking, wow, this is such a great low-maintenance friendship, so easy.
The disconnect, the gap, is what creates the suffering. It's the space between what you need and what they're actually giving, and that space gets filled with the toxic assumption that they could give it if only they wanted to.
So why don't we just fix it? This all seems so fixable. Why don't we just say, hey, can we look at the blueprints together for a minute? Why do we almost always choose the drift instead?
The source has a whole section on this. It calls it the choice of silence, and it emphasizes that it is a choice. We frame it as something that just happened to us, but usually at some point we actively decided not to send the text. We decided not to have the hard conversation.
Why? Is it just laziness? Are we cowards?
I don't think it's that simple. The source argues it's about safety. It is a defense mechanism. Think about what it actually requires to say to a friend, hey, I feel like I'm doing all the initiating in our friendship, and it's starting to make me feel like you don't care about me.
Just saying that out loud makes my stomach turn. It sounds so needy, so demanding.
It is profoundly vulnerable. It is admitting I need you more than you seem to need me. It is exposing your soft underbelly. And in our modern culture, especially that cool girl or chill guy culture, admitting need is the ultimate sin. We're all supposed to be effortless. We're supposed to be low maintenance.
So we choose silence to protect our own ego.
Yes. If I just let the friendship drift away, I can tell myself a safe story. We just got busy. Life happens. We grew apart. That story doesn't threaten my self-worth. It spreads the blame to the universe, to life.
But if I confront you, and you confirm my deepest, darkest fear, actually, yeah, I just don't like you that much anymore, that is absolutely devastating.
Exactly. So we choose the ghost over the potential enemy. We choose the slow drift over the sharp, painful rejection.
The source also makes this really interesting point about protecting the memory of the friendship.
Yes. This is the nostalgia trap. It's so powerful. If we have a big blowout fight, the entire memory of our friendship is now tainted by that ugly ending. When I look back on our amazing college years, I'll see the fight at the end. But if we just drift, I can preserve you in amber.
You stayed 22 and perfect forever in my mind.
I can continue to love the idea of you without ever having to deal with the messy, disappointing reality of who you are now. The drift allows us to keep the souvenir while losing the actual person.
Wow. That is hauntingly beautiful and also incredibly sad. It's easier to have a ghost than an enemy.
It's a very human, if ultimately unsatisfying, compromise.
Okay, so we've surveyed the damage. We've looked at the crumbling foundation, the mismatched blueprints, the silent rot of resentment. It feels pretty bleak, I have to say. I'm literally looking at my phone right now thinking about 3 different people I've let drift.
And the immediate instinct is to feel guilt. I'm a bad friend. I should have tried harder. But remember the mission of this deep dive. We're not here to wallow. We're here to understand the architecture so we can navigate it better.
So if we are the architects of our own social lives, what do we do with this information? I know the source specifically warns against simple fix-it lists, but it has to offer some path forward, right?
It does. It's less of a how-to and more of a shift in perspective.
Right.
And the first step is just acceptance. The quiet fade is the norm. It is statistically the most likely outcome of any given adult bond. Accepting that fact takes some of the personal sting out of it.
It doesn't mean the friendship was a lie or that you failed.
Not at all. It just means the structure reached its natural limit.
There's that old cliche, some people are for a season, some are for a reason, some are for a lifetime. It's a cliche, but it fits the architectural model perfectly. Some houses are just temporary shelters, not forever homes.
Exactly. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to audit the invisible rules. If you are feeling that cold rust of resentment toward a friend right now, stop and consciously audit the 3 pillars.
Ask yourself the hard questions. Am I always the initiator? Is there a huge imbalance in the emotional load? Are our availability expectations totally misaligned?
And then, and this is the hardest part, you have to make the rules visible. If you genuinely want to save the building, you have to be brave enough to show them your blueprints.
You have to have the awkward conversation.
We have to find a way to say, hey, I know life is completely crazy for both of us, but I've been feeling like I'm always the one reaching out, and honestly, I miss you. Can we try to figure out a better rhythm that works for us now?
And if they react well to that,
then you get to renovate. You build a new structure that actually works for the people you are now, not the people you were 10 years ago. You agree on new spoken rules.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can't text every day, but let's schedule one long phone call a month.
And if they don't react well, if they ghost you after that text or they get super defensive,
Then, as painful as it is, you have your answer. And you can finally let go with clarity rather than with confusion. You can stop rowing the boat alone.
it allows you to make an active choice instead of just being a passive victim of the drift.
That's the entire goal.
Yeah.
Agency over your own social world.
I think that's a perfect place to land the plane on the mechanics of all this. But before we wrap up, I want to hit the listener with one final thought. We've spent this whole time talking about the other person, the friend who left, the friend who didn't text back.
Our focus is always outward, isn't it?
It is. But let's turn that flashlight inward for a second. There is a really uncomfortable question lurking under this whole discussion.
Go for it.
When we mourn these lost friendships,
Right.
what are we actually mourning?
Oh, that is the uncomfortable question.
Are we mourning the specific, unique human being? Do we miss their specific weird laugh, their particular worldview, their chaotic energy? Or are we just mourning the role they played in our life?
Are you missing the person or are you missing the function?
Exactly. Are you thinking, I miss her? Or are you thinking, I miss having someone to go to brunch with on Sundays? Or I miss having someone who validates all my complaints about work? Or even, I miss having that person in my life because they made me feel popular.
If the architecture of your friendship is silent, who was really the one designing it? Did you design a friendship based on a deep mutual love for a person? Or did you design a structure to meet your own needs and you just plugged a person into that empty slot?
And when they stopped fitting neatly into that slot, you got mad at them for it.
That's a tough one to sit with.
Yeah.
A really tough one. But if you can answer that question honestly, you'll know which friendships are worth trying to renovate and which ones were just structural supports that have, served their purpose and can be let go.
Oof. That is definitely going to keep me up tonight. Are you missing the friend or just the function?
The silent architecture holds the answer.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this deep dive. We really hope it gave you a blueprint, or maybe just a flashlight, to look at some of those cracks in the foundation a little differently. Check your pillars, check your expectations, and maybe send that one text. But only if you really want to.
Take care.
We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.